Okay, so this will be continuation of different types of assessment. So if you would look at the graph or the diagram that you can see on your screen, you will see that assessment could be classified in 6 ways. So assessment can be classified according to purpose, according to form, according to function, kind of learning, ability, and then interpretation of learning. Okay, so if you would look at these different types of assessment, they also have different purposes and different settings wherein they are applicable. And we will be learning of those different settings as we go along. Now, let's try to look at the paper and pencil first and then the performance-based task. If you would look at paper and pencil, guys, basically these are assessment tasks that would require cognitive thinking. And these are assessment tasks that would usually require single answers. Now, so one keyword there that you need to take note is that when you talk about paper and pencil, its focus is usually having a single answer. Whereas if I will be talking about performance-based type of assessment, as the term implies performance-based, so one of the things there that you need to remember is that it requires the learners to perform a task. Okay, there's a specific task that needs to be done. Or maybe the learner needs to demonstrate, the learner needs to make a product, or maybe demonstrate a strategy, or present an information. And that is considered to be more complex. Now, if you would look at the two, paper and pencil and performance-based future teachers, what do you think is considered to be open-ended? If you would look at the two, paper and pencil, and then performance-based assessment, what do you think is considered to be open-ended? Anybody on chat? Okay, yes, performance-based. How about others? How about others? Sige na guys, tingnan nyo, ano yung open-ended sa kanilang dalawa? Will it be the paper and pencil type of test or will it be the performance-based test? So Melissa is correct on saying it's performance-based. Yes, Belle, that's correct. It's performance-based assessment. Okay? Now, let's try to give some examples first. If I will talk about essay, if I will say essay, what type of test is it? Is it considered to be paper and pencil or is it considered to be performance-based? Pag sinabi kong essay, paper and pencil ba siya or performance-based? Sige, I can see an answer that says it's paper and pencil. How about others? Yes, paper and pencil daw, paper and pencil. Okay, now let's review the definition na. The reason kung bakit ko yan tinanong is that essay kasi is one of the things that we confuse the most, no? Okay, kung paper and pencil nga ba siya or performance-based. One thing na dapat nating isipin, guys, is that pag sinabi kong paper and pencil, it does not mean that you're just writing it. Okay? When I say paper and pencil, it does not mean that you're just writing it. If I'm doing the exam, for example, if I will be doing it via online, hindi ka naman nagsusulat, but it can still be considered paper and pencil by definition. Okay? So class, take note ang main difference ng paper and pencil, tulad ng sinabi ko kanina, is that it requires a single answer. And let's pick an input from the chat. Sabi, performance-based since there is an output, which is correct. Okay? So class, your essay is considered to be performance-based because when you would want the learner to make an essay, you would want them to have an output. And that output is the discussion of something that you asked from them. Let's say, for example, you ask them, what is your political view of the Philippines? Discuss. So you're making them discuss, you're making them think, you're requiring something from them. That's why it's considered to be performance-based. Okay? So tingnan natin yung ibang example. Pag sinabi ko naman, class, halimbawa, doon tayo sa laboratory, no? Doon tayo sa laboratory. Pagkatapos sabi ko sa inyo, identify the state of matter. So you will identify whether it's solid, liquid, or gas. Okay? Identify the state of the matter presented in front of you. Solid, liquid, or gas. Is it considered paper or pencil or performance-based? Others? Sige, gusto kong makita yung idea ng iba. Doon ka sa laboratory, pagkatapos i-identify mo whether solid siya, liquid siya, or gas siya. May nagsasabing performance-based. Kasi baka daw sa laboratory siya ipi-perform. How about others? Sige na, just elicit your idea. Okay? Somebody confirmed the paper and pencil daw siya. Paper and pencil daw siya. Okay? Okay? Sige, paper and pencil, since you are identifying the type of test that you would want, which is actually correct, guys. So when I say that, even if you're doing it in the laboratory, but the task is identify the parts of the microscope, or it will say label the microscope, identify the state of matter, it will still be paper and pencil. Okay? But for example, nandun ka sa laboratory, tapos binigyan ka ng mga chemicals, and if you are the teacher, you have ensured that these chemicals are indeed safe, no? Halimbawa, may mga chemicals tayong ganon. Pagkatapos, you ask the student, what will happen if you will mix chemical A and chemical B? What will happen to the weight of the substance? Is it considered to be paper and pencil, or is it considered to be performance-based? Tinanong mo sila, what will happen if you will mix chemical A and chemical B? What will happen to the mass of, or to the weight of these substances? May nagsasabing performance-based. How about others? Palagay nyo, what type of assessment would it be? May nagsasabing paper and pencil. Sige na, how about others? Sige na, para mag-isip kayo kung ano yung mga different types na pwede natin gawin. Okay? On this case, class, tama yung mga sumagot ng performance-based. Now, bakit siya naging performance-based? Because they need to do something, and then after they will be mixing the two chemicals, they will be weighing the chemicals for them to determine kung anong nangyari sa weight ng chemicals. Okay? Maybe that will be the time that you're teaching them the law of conservation na nagsasabi that matter cannot be destroyed or created, no? Diba ganun yun? Matter can neither be created nor destroyed. It can just be transformed from one form to another. So, for example, that's the concept that you are discussing, and then you allow them to perform the mixing of two chemicals. Okay? Sige lang. So with more practice, you will be able to do that. No? So when I talk about performance-based, try to write down some of these examples. Essay is considered to be performance-based. Reporting in class is also considered to be performance-based. Kapag nagpaparecite ako ng poem, performance-based siya. Okay? If I allowed you to copy a poem or maybe memorize the poem, pag pinamemorize ko sa yung poem tapos pinasulat ko, paper and pencil siya. Pero if I ask you to create your own poem, it will be performance-based. Okay? Halimbawa, grade 1 students, sinabihan natin, okay, write the first stanza or write the first stanza of Lupang Hinirang. Pag pinasulat mo sa kanila yung first stanza ng Lupang Hinirang, paper and pencil yon. Pero pag sinabihan mo yung first year or grade 7 students mo, sabi mo sa grade 7 pupils or students mo is, create a poem about love. If they will be creating a poem about love, it's already considered to be performance-based. Now, if you ask them to perform, for example, sabi mo, you need to sing Lupang Hinirang tomorrow in class. Let's say, for example, in your MAPE subject, no, gusto mo silang paawitin ng Lupang Hinirang. That is considered to be performance-based. Okay? Now, another, if you would ask them to create a problem or to deal with a problem, it's also performance-based. Pag nag-report sila ng results ng isang experiment, tulad ng example ko kanina, if what will happen to the mass of the two objects being mixed, it's also considered performance-based. If they will dance, if they will render a song number, performance-based. Painting, drawing, and playing musical instrument is considered to be performance-based. Okay? Now, halimbawa, you are in the laboratory, ano? So, isang example ko kanina sinabi, identify the parts of the microscope. Identifying the parts of the microscope is considered to be paper and pencil. Kasi pinapa-identify mo, paper and pencil. Pero by the time that you instruct the student, mount a plant specimen on the slide. Diba? If you can recall your lessons in biology, pag sinabi natin magmamount ka sa slide, ibig sabihin kukuha ka ng sample ng plant product, tapos ilalagay mo doon sa slide. If you can recall the slide, that's the rectangular glass wherein we are observing under the microscope. that is already considered to be performance-based because they need to move something for them to experience it and for them to do it. Okay, that's why it's considered to be performance-based. Okay? Now, pag sinabi nating math problems, halimbawa, pag sinabi nating math problems, pag sinabi kong 5 plus 5 is equal to blank, what type is that? Is that paper and pencil or performance-based? Pag sinabi kong 5 plus 5 is equal to blank, what type of exam is that? Paper or pencil or performance-based? Sige na. Simple addition, simple arithmetic. Will it be paper and pencil or performance-based? Performance-based daw. Performance-based. May nagsasabing paper and pencil. Di ba medyo confusing siya? So guys, dito lang yung isipin nyo. Pag sinabi kong 5 plus 5, may ibang sagot pa ba? Wala na. Okay? 5 plus 5 is always 10. Okay? With that, I can say it's paper and pencil. But come to think of this question na, halimbawa tatanungin ka, apples, yung mga usual word problem ba? Apples cost twice as much as oranges. Tapos sinabi for example, Peony paid 200 pesos. How many apples and oranges did she buy? Okay, halimbawa, ganon. Okay? So plus, if you would look at this is an example of a performance-based assessment. Bakit siya magpe-performance-based assessment? Because the students will undergo several steps and there are actually several probable solutions, okay, for the student to come up with an answer. So halimbawa, pwedeng i-represent ng student yung apple na X, tapos yung orange magiging Y. Tsaka the student could represent apples as X, the student could also represent oranges as 2X. So there are several types of formula, there are several types of equation for the student to come up, okay, for the student to come up with an answer. Yes, iisa lang nga yung sagot, pero if you would look at it, several steps yung ipi-perform ni student bago niya class ma-derive yung nag-iisang answer. And that's why it's considered to be performance-based. Okay? Now, let's proceed to the next type of assessment. So you have your standardized and then your teacher-made assessment. Plus, pag sinabi kong standardized, fixed, your keyword there is this. Is considered as a standard. Okay? Considered siya class as a standard. Ibig sabihin, guys, fix yung direction sa pag-administer, tsaka fix din yung direction class sa pag-score. Okay? It's fixed. Okay? It's purchased usually with test manuals, tapos may booklet, tapos may answer sheet siya. Kadalasan, these are the examinations that you would see your guidance counselors administer. Okay, these are the examinations that you would see your guidance counselors administer and then your psychometricians. Okay, now, when I talk about standardized tests, they are not developed overnight, they are not developed over weeks, they're actually developed for a long period of time. At pagkatapos class, when you talk about standardized tests, items are usually sampled on a norm. Okay, may sampling tayo with a norm. Pag sinabi kong norm class, that would mean large number of target groups. Okay, large number of target groups. Okay? Bigyan natin ng example. One example class of your standardized test is what we refer to as intelligence test. Now, kapag ako'y magde-develop ng intelligence test class, it would need successive researches for me to determine that this is indeed an intelligent test. So hindi pwede na bukas ng umaga sasabihin ko, oy, mag-overtime nga ako, gagawa ako ng intelligence test. Hindi pwedeng ganon. And if you would look at class, the different intelligence tests available in the internet, you would usually notice that there are several researches which validated that very intelligent test. And how will I determine that if somebody is intelligent or not? That is by comparison with a norm. So halimbawa, I will carry out this test to many people. Pilot testing ko pa lang yan. I will carry it out to many people for me to determine Ano nga ba yung average na sagot dito? For me to determine what is average, for me to determine what is above average, and for me to determine what is below average, I would conduct a pretest. Okay? That's what we meant by norm. So halimbawa class sa Pilipinas, okay? A very good example for this is, other than the IQ test that you have, another example perhaps is our parameters in health. So halimbawa class yung underweight, overweight, at saka normal weight, it actually varies depending on the culture and depending on the race and ethnicity of our patients or clientele. Halimbawa class, ang normal weight sa Pilipinas is actually lower compared to the to the normal weight of the Caucasians, because Caucasians, Americans, are known to have a big body build. So hindi pwede na ang normal nila, gagawin ko ding normal dito sa Pinas. Kasi it will be overweight already and obesity in the Philippine setting. That's why we always test it with a large number of target groups. Okay? Now, if you would search the internet later on, I would like you to take the challenge. Try nyo mag-search sa net ng mga standardized test. Kapag may mga available class na standardized test, you try to take it so that you will be able to appreciate its value. Okay? So, tulad ng sabi ko, your norm is actually used to compare the results. It's actually used to compare the results. Okay? So, hindi nyo kinukuha yung exam and the goal is to be perfect. Okay? Hindi yan yung goal ng standardized test. But the goal is to compare your performance with the norm. Okay? Pag sinabi nating norm, you can think of it as the public. Okay? Or somebody on the same population. Now, what are examples, no? So kung nakikita nyo, if you would go back to our reference text, you have your Wechsler Adult Intelligence Test. We commonly use this even in the field of nursing and healthcare. We also have your Metropolitan Achievement Test. We have your Ravens Progressive Matrices. We have your NEO Personality Inventory. So those are examples of standardized tests. Yung pinaka-common na makikita nyo sa web that is easily accessible is your intelligence test, your emotional test, and even your personality test. So if ever hindi pa kayo nakakuha ng mga ganitong test, you try to take from the internet. Okay? But just be open-minded whatever the results may be. Okay? Now, you have the teacher-made test. Ito gawa ni sir, gawa ni ma'am. Okay? It's considered to be non-standardized, and it is actually intended for classroom assessment. Its purpose, dear students, future teachers, is classroom assessment. And it is used to determine if learners reach the learning targets. Diba? Always nating inuulit. Go back to the learning targets. Go back to the course outcomes. So, this could be the quizzes that I am giving you. This could be the long test that you will soon be making, or any exams. And then, babalik na naman yan class sa usapan na formative tapos summative. Okay? Babalik yan sa usapan na formative at saka summative. Now, there's a question, if you would refer back to the handout or the study guide that I have posted in our learning management system, I post there a question. Can a teacher-made test, okay, can a teacher-made test be actually considered standardized? Okay? Sige nga, try nating mag-isip. Pwede ba na yung test na ginawa ni teacher, pwede ba siyang maging standardized? Yes or no? Sige na, keyboard warriors. Yung mga exams na ginawa ni teacher, pwede ko ba siyang gawing standardized? Yes or no? Can the examinations made by the teacher be considered standardized? May nagsasabing yes. Okay, how about others? How about others? Yes, may nagsasabing yes. Okay, very good. Okay, so class, yes. As long as it is valid and reliable. As long as it will be established in terms of validity and reliability. Okay? As long as it is valid, as long as it is reliable, and as long as it has standard procedures. Okay, as long as it will have standard procedures for scoring and interpretation of results, it can be considered to be a standardized test. Again, it should be valid, it should be reliable. There should be a standard procedure for scoring and interpretation. Once these standard procedures for scoring and interpretation are available, okay, it can be considered a standardized test. But as I would like to repeat again, these are not tests that are developed overnight. Hindi to siya test class na develop overnight. So, paano natin gagawin class na yung teacher-made test natin, gagawin siya nating standardized. Pag gagawin natin yung teacher-made test natin class na standardized, one thing is that you will undergo the process, what we refer to as instrument validation. You will undergo the process of instrument validation. You can conduct researches like this. You can conduct researches like this. Right? So making an instrument is actually it's actually another type of research that you can embark on. So halimbawa, gusto mo lang alamin what is the best tool to assess the knowledge of the students when it comes to binomials, trinomials, you can conduct a research on that. And then that research class can be used by future teachers for them to determine whether their students really understood the topic or not. Okay? So again, hindi siya overnight nagagawa nating standardized. Dapat may rigorous process siyang dadaan. Okay? So I hope you will be able to touch on that also when you're having your research. Now, this one is actually a picture I picked from the internet for your Wechsler's Adult Intelligence Scale. So class, when you talk about standardized tests, they would usually come in a form of a kit. Okay? So it will come as a form of a kit. Pag sinabi natin class, form siya ng kit. So kung nakikita nyo, may instructions dyan, ito yung mga materials na gagamitin, ano yung gagawin nyo. Tapos pagkabukas nyo yan guys, parang nakalagay, okay, test 1, read the following instructions. Give the participants 20 minutes for them to do it. Okay? Pagkatapos sasabihin naman, okay, by the time that the 20 minutes is done, ito na naman yung gagawin mo. Kasi standardized siya. So whether gagawin siya doon sa Romblon, gagawin siya doon sa Palawan, gagawin siya doon sa Samar, dapat the same yung pag-conduct natin ng test na yan. Okay? So that's why we refer to it as standardized test. And if you would go back to the definition, may kasama siyang manual, may kasama siyang booklet, may kasabay siyang answer sheet. Okay? Now, next. If I will be classifying the assessment based on the kind of learning, you would notice that it could be termed as an achievement test. It could also be termed as aptitude test. Okay? Now, achievement test, so doon sa inyo sa mga naka-experience, di ba, may district achievement test, may division achievement test. So if you would look at achievement, the keyword there may be that you need to capture is after. After. It's after instruction, after a learning program, after a curricular program. Okay? So, di ba, sasabihin minsan, we will be conducting a division achievement test. We will be conducting a division achievement test for the grade 2 students. So class, ano yung ginagawa? At the end ng semester or at the end of the school year, all the grade 2 students for the entire division will be taking the test. Pagkatapos anong gagawin? Kino-compare yung performance ng school. Okay? Now, one fallacy na naririnig ko, and maybe I have also observed in some of the schools, kadalasan sinasabi na, uy, sige, okay, share mo na lang yung answers at saka i-review mo yung answers para yung school performance natin tataas. Okay? Take note, fellow teachers, that is not to be an ethical practice. Hindi po yan ethical practice. Natuturuan nyo yung sagot yung mga students nyo para tataas yung score ng school nyo, para gaganda yung performance ng school nyo. Huwag kayong maglokohan. Huwag kayong maglokohan. Sir, paano kapag mababa yung performance ng school namin? Right there and then, you will be able to reflect na baka may dapat kaming improve sa school namin. Okay? Huwag maglokohan. Now, going back, it would also measure what a person can do at the present. So, halimbawa, pagkatapos na ng school year, titingnan natin, okay, ano na nga ba yung alam ng mga grade 2 students namin? Are they able to add, divide, subtract already, or are they able to get the outcomes expected for a grade 2 student or pupil? So, now, when I talk about aptitude naman, Pag sinabi nating aptitude, it usually pertains to the characteristics that influence a person's behavior that aid goal attainment. Okay? Anong keyword mo dito, class? Characteristics towards goal attainment. Okay? Ano yung mga characteristics going towards goal attainment? Yan yung mini-measure ng tinatawag nating aptitude test. Okay? Now, before ako mag-proceed, no, tingnan muna natin yung example. This one, class, is derived from NMAT. Okay? If memory serves me well, NMAT stands for National Medical Aptitude Test. It's the test that is being taken by college graduates or qualified applicants for them to go towards medical school. Okay? So class, tingnan nyo, aptitude. Ano yung mga aptitude areas na ina-assess? Verbal, quantitative, inductive reasoning, at saka perceptual ability. Okay? Verbal, quantitative, inductive reasoning, at saka perceptual acuity. Ano pong ibig sabihin yan? Ano? Tingnan nyo class ang verbal. Okay? Tingnan nyo yung verbal. This is an example that I derived from the internet. I'm sorry, I'm not sure whether the website has the authority to share this, but I derived this from the websites. No? So just for you to see the example. This is an example of a verbal analogy. Okay? A college student is actually expected to be able to answer these questions. Okay? A college graduate is expected to be able to answer these questions. Now, if you would look at this, I mentioned to you that this was derived from an NMAT example exam. Pag sinabi kong NMAT, National Medical Aptitude Test, pag titignan niyo class yung mga words na tinitest dito, it does not mean that it will be all about medicine. Okay? Tingnan nyo yan. Enthusiastic is to passionate. How about plentiful? So titingnan mo, what's the relationship between enthusiastic and passionate? Are they synonymous or are they antonyms? Tapos, how about plentiful? Plentiful is to blank. Okay? That's example of verbal analogies. And these are example of perceptual acuity. Okay? Titingnan mo, saan mo makikita, okay? Saan mo makikita ang figure na to? Okay? Is it on A, B, C, D, or E? Okay? You try to look at it, class, na. And then, if you will be looking at it, okay, it's not actually testing your knowledge. Okay? It's not actually testing your knowledge. I appreciate the answer. Bilis mong sumagot. Okay? It does not actually test your knowledge, but it actually tests your characteristics that can aid in your goal attainment. Okay? Halimbawa, class, yung perceptual acuity, ano yung tinetest nun, class? Tinetest nun if whether you are a keen observer. Diba? It's actually testing whether you are a keen observer. And this is actually a skill that would help you towards your goal attainment. And it actually determines the degree of readiness to learn and perform well in a particular situation or domain. Okay? Hindi niya sinasabi, halimbawa, doon ulit sa NMAT na sinasabi ko, pag sinabi nating NMAT, hindi niya sinasabi na, uy, magiging magaling na doktor to kasi memorize niya yung anatomy of the body. No, that's not how an aptitude test works. But an aptitude test will be able to say that, okay, this student scored high in the aptitude test, meaning this student is able to have high critical thinking. And this student has a high possibility of surviving medical school. Okay? Yun yung mga legit na conclusion dyan. Hindi niya sinasabi na ay matalino yan sa English kasi magaling talaga. Okay? Ayan, bobo yan kasi mababa yung score. No, that's not how it works. Okay? So that's what you refer to as aptitude test. Now, I would like to go back to this result. And then class, you also need to remember, no, that this test could be an aptitude test and this test could also be classified as standardized. Di ba kanina may sinabi tayo na standardized versus teacher-made. Tapos right now, sinabi natin that this is aptitude versus achievement. Now, if I am looking at tests such as your NMAT, okay, plus your NMAT is actually an aptitude test and at the same time, it's a standardized test. Okay? Now, tingnan nyo itong percentile rank. If you can recall, dear students, future teachers, your lessons in basic statistics, pag sinabi ko class percentile, that is not actually percent. Okay? 84 percentile or 84th percentile does not actually mean 84%. But when I talk about 84th percentile, titingnan nyo yan class, no? What do we mean by percentile? Kapag dinivide ko lahat na kumuha ng exam, let's say for example from 1 to 100, from 1 to 100, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86. Halimbawa, we have a very long line from 1 to 100. If your percentile score, so sabi ko nga hindi yan percent, so mali na sabihin na 84 percentile is 84%. That's very wrong. But if you say 84 percentile, let's say nandyan yung score mo, P84. Ganyan tayo usually mag-refer sa statistics. Ano pong ibig sabihin yan? Mas mataas po yung score mo. Your score is higher than 84% of those who took the exam. Okay? Sabihin ko na lang ha, all took exam. Okay? Of all those who took the exam. But your scores are lower compared to 16% of those who took the exam. Okay? Yan po yung ibig sabihin ng percentile 84. Mas mataas ka sa 84% ng population, pero mas mababa yung score mo sa 16% ng examinees. Okay? Now, pag titingnan ko, sino yung may mas mataas na aptitude score? Is it a person with percentile 99 or is it a person with percentile 95? Sino po sa kanila yung may better performance? Is it a person with P99, a percentile score of 99, or is it a person with a percentile score of 95? Anybody? Sino po sa kanila yung may better performance? Si percentile 99 nga ba? Or si percentile 95? Okay, thank you. At least I know that you understand what we meant by percentile. Okay? So kailan po yan kadalasan ginagamit? Ginagamit po yan sa standardized test. And for example, if you would look at universities here, okay, para makita nyo yung perspective kung saan siya ginagamit. Halimbawa, class, yung NMAT. There are universities that would require that the NMAT score or the NMAT percentile of their students must be greater than 90%. Okay? Meron din namang university na nagre-require na yung NMAT score nila is greater than 60%. Sino po usually yung nagre-require ng mga 90% and up? These are actually high caliber schools. Paano po sila nagiging high caliber? Because they would want to maintain the quality. Kung nakikita nyo at the start pa lang, parang gusto nila na yung students nilang papasok yung mga magagaling. Okay? So parang strategy din yan class ng mga postgraduate schools, no? Such as your medicine. Okay? So that's an example of an aptitude test. Class, sorry, that's the only example available to me, but rest assured napakaraming aptitude test that you can see. Okay, now let's have more types of assessment. So according to ability, guys, your assessment could be classified as speed or power. Pag sinabi kong speed, these are easy items that need to be completed within a time frame. Halimbawa, class, kung sa computer lessons nyo, meron tayong tinatawag na typing test. Okay? I don't know if you were able to play Typing Shark. I don't know if it's still part of your generation. Pero try to search online. May tinatawag tayong Typing Shark. So, kung gaano karaming words yung matatype mo correctly. Okay? That's the purpose. Speed. So, sa speed test class, madalian lang. Tapos class completed within a time limit. Okay? A very good example perhaps is that you have your window cards, di ba? Kung nakikita nyo po sa math, meron po tayong tinatawag na window cards. Okay? Kung titingnan nyo po yung window cards ng addition, pag titingnan nyo po yung window cards ng addition, especially yung level 1 ng window cards natin, makikita po ninyo na doon sa window cards, mabilisan po, dapat maubos po yun ng student. Okay? Usually nagbibigay ka ng limit na 1 hour. Pero mas mabilisan at saka tama yung sagot ng students mo, that would mean that your students have speed and accuracy. Whereas, pag sinabi naman nating power test, they are consist of items with increasing level of difficulty. Okay? So parang may level 1, level 2, level 3, but then the time is sufficient to complete the whole test. So example, you have math test that determines the ability of the examinees to utilize the data, to become creative, formulate, solve, and reflect. So halimbawa class, no, pag sinabi kong power test, halimbawa sa level 1, nagsisimple arithmetic ka or nagsisimple algebra ka. Pagkatapos class, you will have level 2 wherein they need to factor out binomial sa halimbawa. Tapos pupunta ka naman sa level 3 wherein they need to factor out trinomials. Okay? So you are making a power test if several levels yung tinetest mo. Now, if you would go to the next classification, okay, we are going towards your norm reference versus criterion reference. So class, this is interpretation of learning. Pag sinabi natin class na norm reference, your norm reference assessment uses the distribution of scores of a sample group. Okay? Tinitingnan natin dito yung distribution of scores of a sample group. And then class, the mean and standard deviation are computed for the group. Okay? Now, if you would look at it now, meron na tayong entry dito ng statistics. So you have your mean and then you also have your standard deviation. Sorry, kindly correct that. Mean, straight bar, and then you have your standard deviation. Okay? We are computing it. And tulad ng sabi ko kanina sa aptitude test, okay, that is norm reference, the standing of every individual is based from how far they are from the mean and the standard deviation. Plus, if you can recall in your statistics again, sorry, hindi straight line yan. Pero plus, pag nare-recall nyo sa statistics, dapat straight yan ha. So you have what you refer to as the normal curve, di ba? May tinatawag tayo class na normal distribution. Pagkatapos class, dito sa gitna yung mean. Tapos dito natin makikita, for example, tinatawag itong 1SD. Ito tinatawag ding 1SD, meaning 1 standard deviation away from the mean. This is 2SD. This is also 2SD. Tapos may 3SD, may 3SD. Now, tinitingnan po natin dyan kung gaano kalayo. Okay? Gaano kalayo yung score ng participants. So, if you will be reviewing your statistics, you will know that each of the score can be converted towards the standard score. And when I say a standard score of 1.5, that would mean class that the score of the participant or the student is somewhere here. Which means that the participant class is 1.5 standard deviations away from the mean. Positive ha? Positive. Ibig sabihin class, ibig sabihin, maganda yung performance niya compared sa average. Okay? Compared sa average. Now, pag titingnan natin dito class, so you have again what you refer to as the norm. So babalik na naman ako class sa terminong norm. And when I talk about the norm, take note is that is where you are basing your standards. That will be the basis for your standards. And that basis for standards is coming from very large samples. Tulad ng sabi ko kanina, it's coming from very large samples. And if you would look at the shape of the normal distribution, okay, you recall your statistics, it's considered to be bell-shaped. And then again, it converts your raw scores. Your raw scores are being converted to standard scores. Ano pong ibig sabihin? Halimbawa, class, yung score is 20 out of 30. Iko-convert po yan into your standard score. This one is considered a raw score, and then your standard score will be somewhere along the line of 1.5, 3.5, etc. Now, pag titingnan po natin to, no? Pag titingnan natin yung bell curve, who do you think performed the highest? Is it A, my student who is on 1SD? Or B, is it my student on 3SD? Or C, is it my student on negative 3SD? Sino po sa kanila yung may pinakamataas na score? Is it my student on 1SD? Is it my students on 3SD? Or is it my student on negative 3SD? Yes, anybody? Yes, yung iba? Maraming sumasagot ng A. How about yung iba? How about yung iba? Sige. So, tingnan natin ulit ha. Tingnan natin ulit. So, class, sige, siguro need natin i-reinforce. Tomorrow comes. So, class, pag titingnan natin yung standard curve, huwag yung tingnan yung thank you. Baka excited lang kayo matapos. Okay? So, class, ito yung standard curve. Sabi ko, class, that's your mean. Okay? That's your normal curve. No? That's your normal curve. Now, pag sinabi nating mean, di ba? That's your average. Pag sinabi nating mean, that's the average score. Isipin nyo, class, this is the 1 SD. This is the first SD or standard deviation. This is the second SD. Tapos dito, halimbawa, yung third SD. Pagkatapos, class, dito yung negative 1 SD. Tapos, class, nandito yung negative 2 SD. Tapos nandito yung negative 3 SD. Now, pag titingnan natin to guys, no? Pag titingnan natin to, sino po kaya sa kanila yung considered high yung scores? Isipin nyo ito yung average. Karamihan sa inyo, sinagot nyo 1 SD. Huwag yung tingnan yung pagkataas ng curve. Huwag yung tingnan yung pagkataas ng curve. Yung tingnan nyo yung distance niya, class. You look at the distance from the mean. No? So doon sa tanong ko, class, na sino yung may pinakamataas na score? It's actually the person who is 3 SD. Because, class, your 3 SD scores, halimbawa, the average score is 70 out of 100. Your 1 SD score, class, could be 80 out of 100. Your 2 SD class could be 90 out of 100. Then your 3 SD could be 95 out of 100. Whereas, class, your 1 SD here, negative 1 SD could be 60 out of 100. This one, class, could be, let's say it's 50 out of 100. And then this one could be 30 out of 100. Okay? Are you getting my point? Kung titingnan natin itong graph. Sige nga, maka-thumbs up nga tayo or maka-heart. At least ma-interpret nyo lang kung sino muna yung mas mataas yung scores. Okay? Are you getting the point, class? Okay. So don't worry, we will have a chapter naman that talks about interpretation and analysis, no? But as of this time, I just would want you to capture that 3SD means that the performance is way higher from the average. It's way higher from the average. Now, if my students' class would fall to negative 1 SD, okay, medyo dapat bantayan ko yung estudyante. Pero, class, once the performance will fall below negative 3 SD, okay, dapat, class, tingnan natin yung student. The student may actually be considered already to be a marginal learner, and the student may actually be considered na delayed na, class, sa kanyang performance. So baka kailangan niya, class, baka may special needs yung student mo kapag yung performance niya falls on the negative 3 SD. Okay? Take note, I'm just saying baka may needs. Baka may needs. So that's one of the consideration that you need to. Okay? So we'll have more of that statistics now on maybe 2 chapters from now or 2 units from now. Okay? So that's what you meant by norm reference. Pag sinabi naman natin criterion reference, class, it's already with a given set of standards, tapos may scores na siya. Okay? Halimbawa, no, wala akong pake kung ano yung average. Wala akong pake kung ano yung average performance. Basta, class, pag sinabi kong 40 to 50, it's considered to be very high. Pag sinabi kong halimbawa na 30 to 39, it's considered to be high. Tapos halimbawa, pag sinabi kong 20 to 29, it's considered average. Pag sinabi ko namang 10 to 19, it's considered low. Pag ganito yung class, no? Pag ganito yung criteria na naset mo, it's considered to be criterion reference type of assessment. Pero once you consider the mean, once you consider the average performance, it's considered to be a norm reference. Kasi nga tulad ng sabi ko, a norm is a large population. Okay? A norm is a large population. Okay? Sige. You have any questions so far?